Hi guys, tonight we begin with frost, oak smoke, and oaths. Forget the carnival of horned helmets and endless feasts, the tidy myths hammered into souvenirs. This is the North as it bites. Sea salt in split lips, pine pitch under the nails, iron singing in the dark. You wake to the drum of surf against the fjord and the groan of rope through wet wood. Your breath ghosts the air. The gods do not whisper. They howl through gulls and winter wind. Across the water, black cliffs rise like the teeth of a drowned worm. Somewhere a raven laughs. You taste hunger and tin, old ash and cold fear and something else. Glory, perhaps, or the memory of it. And one more important thing. Don't forget to subscribe to the channel and leave your impressions of the story in the comments. Welcome to the Viking Age. Survive if you can. You push aside the sealskin and step into a morning that smells of tar, wet wool, and the iron tang of snow. Frost webs the grass. The shoreline is a scatter of pebbles slick as fish scales. On the beach, the longship waits, sleek as a hungry otter, its planks shining with fresh pitch. Your hands find the familiar roughness of the oar, the worn groove where your fingers learn to pull. The wood is cold enough to sting. From the boathouse comes the methodical knock of mallet on dowel, a rhythm that beats the blood awake. Beyond you, the settlement stirs. Smoke lifts from turf-roofed halls and snakes toward a pale sky, where winter light runs thin as watered ale. Children chase a shaggy goat between fish racks. Women shrug cloaks of wadmal tighter around shoulders, and thralls hurry with baskets of peat and kelp, heads down against the wind. A spear leans against the doorpost of every house like a second spine. The world is a tool here, not an ornament. The people of Fjord live between cliff and sea, on a narrow shelf of earth hammered flat by generations of boot and hoof. They wear the North the way a smith wears burns. As proof, the Jarl's Hall crowns the knoll like a ship turned upside down. Its gable boards are carved with wolves and knots that swallow themselves. Inside, the high seat carries the weight of 3 men and 100 winters. The place names, Goat's Path, Crow's Wash, Oath Stone, are as old as the tide. You swing the little iron seeks at a frayed length of cord and breathe the oil of the blade. The cord parts with a fiber sigh. Your tunic is wool lined with a thin, itchy linen. Your cloak smells of last year's smoke. The leather strap of your shield creaks when you test it. The face is linden, rim bound with rawhide, boss hammered from iron black as crow wings. You know its emptiness and its promise. By the water trough, Einar the shipwright rubs pitch into the seams of the hull with a strip of moss. His beard is white in a way that might be ice or salt or both. His shoulders are a collapsed cliff. Skade's thirsty, he says, thumbing the tar. She'll drink enough to cross the whale road if the gods are kind. If, you answer, because every prayer in Fjord is 2/3 doubt and 1/3 defiance. The longship bears the name Stormgull. She is built for speed and surprise, not comfort. Shallow draft to kiss pebble beaches, a keel that knows how to bite, a dragon-headed prow meant to talk before men do. Painted shields will hang along her sides like a jaw of teeth when you go. Oars for when the wind sulks, a single square sail for when it is in the mood to help. She remembers raids the way a dog remembers hands. At the edge of the settlement, past the thorn hedge that pretends to be a wall, the Hof temple leans into the hillside, all honeywood and shadow. Inside, the oath ring lies on a carved pillar, polished by palms and vows. The H-lout bowl has dried to a thin rust. It will shine again tonight. No horns line its walls. Horned helmets are a tale for gullible merchants. Real men go to war with skulls uncovered and minds braced. The gods prefer the honest shape of a head. You kneel at the fjord and wash your face in water close to ice. It shocks the sleep out of you. Over your shoulder, the Verlva approaches in a cloak sewn with bits of bone that click softly when she moves. Her staff's iron cap ends in a spiral that looks like a wave thinking. Her hair is the color of drowned straw. She sees you with a sadness that could be kindness or contempt. Your path is a cracked antler, she says, voice like spent embers. Strong, proud, broken at one time, sea will take what you love, fire will take what you become. You are not sure if the words nest under your ribs or pass straight through them. What of the Jarl, you ask, because this settlement's fate is braided with your own, and because the gods' riddles are safer when asked about someone else. Jarl Sigvard is a winter cliff, she replies. He looks eternal until the thaw finds him. The thaw is men. The thing, the assembly, gathers on the flat near the oath stone while the light is still thin. Free men lean on their spears and spit into the cold. The law speaker recites what he remembers, and that is everything. His voice is a rhyme on the ears. Disputes about a trespassing goat, a stolen axe head, a marriage bed gone cold are held up to the ring and peered at as if they were fish with unfamiliar bones. The words of law are ropes. Men tug them to see who is strongest. Jarl Sigvard stands in a cloak lined with fox, gold arm ring fat with other men's oaths. His left hand bears a scar that stories say is from a sword, though you know it came from an overconfident eel. He lifts the oath ring and the assembly hushes because metal is the only true punctuation in this land. 2 days, he declares, and we sail a trading nar to the Danemark with good Fjord iron, with wool and furs and the last of the dried cod. We bring back salt, Frankish blades, maybe stories worth the ale. Those who ride the storm gull will escort us as far as Skagerrak, spears out, eyes open. The escort is a fig leaf over intent. Everyone understands that trade is a warm word worn by cold men. If a monastery dreamless under fog should appear, if a rival clan's buyer should creak with wealth and lack courage, the hand that guides a rudder can steer more than a ship. You stand among the chosen, feeling the weight of eyes and the small lift of your ribs as if the air had grown richer. To your left, Arn Ketilson, your foster brother, your almost shadow, chews the inside of his cheek like it owes him debt. Skagerrak, he murmurs, if the gods have a chessboard, that's the square they tap. They tap with thunder, you say. They tap with men. Thunder is just commentary. That night the blot is modest because winter has its hand in everyone's pocket. A boar is led to the Hof. Its bristles stand like a field in wind. The priest cuts its throat with a knife whose handle shines from being held by men who needed things. Blood steams in the cold. The H-Lout bowl fills, and the H-Lout wigs sprinkle red rain across men and beam and idol. You smell copper and peat and the yeasty promise of ale. Someone sings a thing that might be a prayer but feels like a memory. The Verlva beats her staff against the earth until rhythm sits on your shoulders like a second cloak. You close your eyes and see Valkyries in the aurora, long hair the color of cold fire, their horses' hooves striking sparks that fall as stars. The next day the Nar lies broad and deep-bellied in the water, patient as a cow. The storm gull hovers nearby, hungry. You load the trade goods, the sacks of iron bloom and the neat bundled fleeces, the casks of herring, the little treasure of amber that looks like captured sunrise. You pack spears, axes with bearded heads, a handful of mail that rings like coin when moved. Swords are rare and dear. The few among you who own them wear that ownership like a scar and a secret. Your mother's hands, the color of browned barley, find your cheek and hold it longer than they did last summer. You will bring back salt, she says, as if saying so will fabricate it from mist, and a story that doesn't have too much blood in it. I'll bring both, you tell her, and the lie tastes like stubbornness. Children run along the shingle, mouths open to swallow gull cries. Thralls wade knee-deep, pushing the hulls until buoyancy becomes a blessing you do not have to earn. Oars bite, the sail shrugs and then billows as if remembering a promise. The longship leaps forward, the Nar nods like an ox resigned. The fjord narrows between cliffs that cradle sound. Ravens keep pace until the world opens. See, the whale road, the color of hammered slate, the breath of it colder than the knife's thought. The long, low swell rolls like the back of a sleeping beast. Your world shrinks to timber under your feet and the line where gray meets grayer. The sail snaps and booms, the mast groans. Tar warms under a thin sun and breathes a ghost of forests. You taste salt crusting your lips and the fat smoke of a seal lamp in your memory. They row and you row with them, a chorus of backs and lungs, each pull a stanza. Arn hums an old rowing song that counts storms instead of sheep. You count the beats between crests and feel a pattern that might be fate if you cared to name it. Toward evening, the sky becomes a bruise. A dark strip on the horizon thickens until it is no longer horizon at all but intention. The wind swings. The Nar's skipper, a Dane with a scar that makes his smile permanent, shouts to reef the sail. Hands run where they have always run. Ropes turn into snakes, then into fences. The sea finds teeth. Spray needles your face raw. The longship rides like a stubborn horse. The Nar wallows, but she is built to wallow. Thor wakes, someone says, and lightning nods. You glance aft and see the Verlva sitting still as carved wood, her staff across her knees, eyes open as if to. The dragon prow cuts the storm lightning into ribbons. Jarvel's ship looms, half swallowed by rain and foam, but the spear aimed at you is not washed away. It hangs in the night like a rune carved on the world's skin. The storm gull pitches under you, oars thrashing water into froth. Arn shouts something you can't hear, and the words are stolen by wind and spray. Behind you, the Nar wallows heavy with trade goods, its crew shouting prayers to Odin and Jord and any god with an ear for sailors. The rival longship comes closer. The men on its deck are shadows lined with steel, shields flashing when lightning breaks open the dark. You recognize their shapes, their stance, their readiness. Jarvel has brought the best of his Hearthguard, wolves dressed as men. You see a banner whipped into a horizontal screen, a black net on a red field, a promise of no mercy. The clash is inevitable. Hold fast, Einar the shipwright roars, one gnarled hand clutching the mast. Row or where fish meet. His voice cuts even through thunder. The storm gull leaps as if it feels insulted by danger. Spray blinds you for a breath, then clears, and there. Jarvel's prow smashes into the Nar's flank, wood screaming like a wounded beast. Men cry out, weapons rise, and blood hits the sea for the first time tonight. You're moving before you think. Shield up, seeks in hand, lungs burning from salt air and fear. Arn grabs your shoulder. Stay with me, he shouts, eyes wild with the reflection of lightning. You nod, but your feet already run toward the edge where boats become bridge and battle. A man from Jarvel's ship leaps across, axe up, beard dripping sea and fury. You meet him in the narrow place between masts. His blade whistles down, splintering your shield rim, and your arm jolts with the shock. You twist, drive the seeks into the gap beneath his ribs. Hot breath, hotter blood, and then he's gone, slipping into the black roar below. The air tastes of copper and rain. Men scream. The Nar is listing, water slapping over her side. Jarl Sigvard stands on the aft deck like a rooted pine, sword raised, gold arm ring flashing whenever lightning graces him. His voice carries above everything. Hold, by Thor's beard, hold. But the sea doesn't care for Jarl's commands. A rogue wave breaks over the Nar's deck, dragging 3 men into the hungry dark. One screams until the next wave swallows him. Then you see Jarvel himself. He's taller than you remember, broader, his beard hung with tiny bones that click when he moves. A scar bisects his lip, and his eyes burn with something older than hate. He steps to the edge of his ship, resting a long Dane axe across his shoulders like it weighs less than a sigh. Sigvard. His voice rides the gale, low and cutting. You should have stayed in your fjord. Sigvard spits seawater and lifts his sword. Come claim it then. And Jarvel smiles. The kind of smile men carve into sagas, the kind that eats warmth out of the world. He leaps. The gap between ships is nothing for him. He lands on the Nar's deck with the weight of an avalanche. The Danax swings, and the first man to meet him falls in 2 halves before he understands he's dying. You freeze for half a breath too long, watching the red mist hang in the cold air. Arn shoves you hard. Move, the storm gull bucks, pulling you away from the Nar as ropes snap and oarsmen scream. For one heartbeat you're adrift between 2 beasts, the Nar choking on water, Jarvel's longship biting hard. And above it all, The storm splits open with a crack that blinds you white, and through that white comes the Verlva's voice, soft but cutting, memory braided into the gale. Sea will take what you love. Fire will take what you become. You don't know yet which loss comes first. Behind you a horn sounds, a deep, long, bone-rattling call. Not Sigvard's, not yours. A third voice on the whale road tonight. Shapes bloom out of the rain, lanterns swinging. Another ship, but whose? The horn rolls across the storm like a god's own breath, low and thunderous, cutting through the clash of steel and roar of sea. You twist, wiping salt from your eyes, and there it is. A third longship, sliding through the night like a shadow set loose from hell's hall. Its sail is black, its prow carved into a serpent whose fanged jaw gleams with wet gold. Lanterns sway along the gunwale, their glow dancing in the storm spray like captive fireflies. No banner flies from its mast, no clan mark you know. That is worse than any you could name. Who in Odin's frozen bones is that? Arn shouts, his voice ragged with rain and battle. Einar, steady at the Stormgull's mast, answers without looking up. No friend. Jarl's men falter mid-strike, staring past you at the new arrival. Even Jarl Sigvard lowers his sword a finger's breadth, gaze narrow, jaw clenched. Only the Verlva doesn't turn. She sits cross-legged on the deck, staff across her knees, chanting something you can't hear under the thunder. The stranger ship glides closer, impossibly steady, the storm seeming to part for it. Then a voice carries across the water, deep and hollow. Lower your steel. The sea takes its own tonight. No one moves. Not Sigvard's men, not Jarl's, not you. Lightning tears the sky apart, and for a heartbeat you see them clearly. Warriors lining the serpent ship, their mail dark and glistening, their shields lacquered black. Their helms are crested with raven feathers, and every face is hidden behind bone-white masks carved into snarling beasts. The Verlva whispers the word you least wanted to hear. Skeldrivar, ghost hunters, oath breakers, men who serve neither king nor clan but the coin of forgotten gods. They raid only where the omens point, and no saga speaks kindly of their visits. Jarl spits into the sea. Hired carrion, he growls. Who feeds you maskworms, speak or bleed? The serpent ship answers with silence. Then one masked figure steps forward, holding aloft something wrapped in sealskin. With a sharp motion, he strips the wet leather free. A skull gleams in the lantern light, carved with runes so old the shapes seem to crawl when you look too long. Arn crosses himself without meaning to, though his faith is older than Christ's missionaries. That's Ymir's mark, the Verlva hisses, eyes sharp as frost. A promise made before men were men. Then the masked warrior speaks, and though his words are soft, they carry like blade edge on ice. Jarl Sigvard of Hordafjord, Jarl Jarl of Vestraholm, your feud ends tonight. The one who survives will not sail home. The rain hammers harder, as though the sea itself flinches from his voice. Sigvard's knuckles whiten on his sword hilt. Who commands you? The masked man tilts his head, as if listening to something only he can hear. Then he raises one black-fletched spear and points it, not at Sigvard, not at Kjarval, but at the storm gull. At you. Your blood goes cold. Before you can move, a flaming jar arcs through the night from the serpent ship, spinning end over end, trailing sparks like a comet's tail. It smashes against the Nar's deck, and fire blooms across wet wood like a starving beast finding meat. Men scream. The Nar's crew scatter, some grabbing buckets, others blades. The smoke claws at your throat, choking and sweet with pitch and tar. The rain hisses against it but cannot kill it fast enough. Cut us free, Einar roars, hacking at the ropes tying the storm gull to the Nar. Arn leaps to help, his axe biting through wet hemp. Kjarval's men use the chaos to surge forward, screaming, blades high. Sigvard meets them and the Nar becomes a slaughterhouse. The serpent ship drifts closer still, silent except for the sound of its masked warriors banging spear shafts against their shields in a slow, measured rhythm. Boom, boom, boom. It isn't a call to battle, it's a death march. Then through the storm you hear something worse than the sea, worse than fire, worse even than steel. The low groan of timbers splitting. The Nar's hull has cracked beneath the weight of both ships, water pouring in, fire roaring above. She's going down. Overboard, Arn shouts, shoving you toward the rail. Swim or drown. But before you leap, your eyes lock on Kjarval. The rival Jarl stands knee-deep in fire and blood, his Dane axe slick, his chest heaving like a bellows. He sees you. He hesitates. And then, for the second time in your life, he spares you. Why? The answer vanishes as the Nar screams, the sea opens, and the night swallows you whole. The world becomes cold and black and endless. Somewhere above, men die, ships burn, and thunder walks the sky. You kick upward, lungs screaming for air, but when you break the surface, there's no sign of the serpent ship. No sign of Kjarval, only wreckage, only waves, only you, Arn, and Einar clinging to the splintered ribs of the Nar, as the storm drives you toward a shoreline you've never seen. The Verlva's prophecy claws at your thoughts like a hooked nail. Sea will take what you love. Fire will take what you become. And you know, as the waves drag you into the dark, that the first part has already begun to come true. The sea spits you onto the stones like something it regrets swallowing. Cold surf claws at your legs as you drag yourself free, lungs burning, ears ringing with the memory of thunder and screaming timbers. Salt stings every cut and scrape, but you barely feel it over the weight of exhaustion pressing your body into the black pebbles. Beside you, Arn coughs seawater and bile, his face pale beneath a mask of blood and sand. Einar lies half-buried in kelp and foam, chest rising in shallow, stubborn breaths. Behind you, the ocean roars, not as an enemy now, but as if laughing at what it's done. You roll onto your back and stare up at the sky. Gray clouds chase each other like wolves across a frozen plain. Ravens wheel above, their cries harsh and greedy. Somewhere distant, thunder mutters over the horizon, but the storm has passed you by. Alive, Arn rasps, spitting salt into the stones. By every god, we're alive. For now, Einar croaks without opening his eyes. You push yourself to your knees and look inland. The shore curves into a narrow spit of land flanked by jagged cliffs, their black stone clawing toward the sky. Beyond them stretches a forest, dense, dark, and silent, the kind of silence that listens more than it speaks. The air carries the smell of wet pine and distant fire, though you see no smoke. It's no place you know. Where are we? Arn asks, sitting up slowly, clutching his ribs. You shake your head. The coast is unfamiliar, but something about the rock, the forest, the taste of the wind whispers of old sagas. Stories sung in low voices around the hearth about lands the gods had hidden from men. Einar finally stirs, sitting up with a groan, rubbing his beard free of sand and seaweed. We were blown south, he mutters, scanning the shoreline. Too far for Fjord, too far for Vestraholm. Could be Skagerrak, could be the Danemark coast. He trails off, frowning. Or somewhere no man's meant to come back from. You follow his gaze and see why he's gone quiet. Half buried in the stones a few yards away lies a ribcage, massive, curved, bleached white by salt and time. Not the bones of any beast you've ever hunted. Too big for whale, too strange for dragon, too wrong for anything mortal. Arn shivers. What died here? Einar answers without looking at him. Something that was winning until it wasn't. The wind shifts, carrying another sound. Low, rhythmic, hollow drums. You freeze, listening. Arn hears it too. His hand goes instinctively to the axe strapped across his back. The beats are slow and deliberate, like the pulse of something ancient, carried through the air from deep within the forest. Not Skagerrak, you whisper. A raven lands on one of the massive ribs, croaking once before taking flight toward the trees, as though summoned. Einar pulls himself to his feet with a grunt, testing his weight on legs still trembling from the sea. If there are drums, there are men, he says. And if there are men, there's fire, food, and answers. Or spears, Arn mutters. You help him to his feet, and together you leave the shoreline, stepping over driftwood and wreckage, following the sound of drums. Every step inland feels heavier, as though the earth itself resents your intrusion. The forest swallows you whole. Damp moss muffles your boots, and the air grows close beneath the canopy of pines. The drums are louder here, echoing strangely, as though the trees themselves carry the sound between them. Ravens flit from branch to branch overhead, watching in silence. Then you find the first cairn. Stones stacked with unnatural precision, each carved with runes you don't recognize. Circles intersecting lines, marks that seem to turn in on themselves when you stare too long. At its base lies a heap of bones. Deer, bear, wolf, and human, some still stained dark with old blood. Arn stops dead. I don't like this, he says. You're not meant to, Einar replies, touching one of the stones with 2 fingers before drawing them back quickly as though burned. This is no place for men. The drums stop. Silence crashes down like an axe. Then somewhere ahead a voice speaks. A woman's voice, low and melodic, carrying words you've never heard before but understand all the same. Turn back, children of the north. The sea has spared you once. The land will not. Arn grips his axe tighter. What in hell's name was that? Before you can answer, shadows move between the trees. Figures step into view, tall, cloaked, their faces hidden behind masks of carved bone. They carry spears tipped with obsidian, shields painted black, their presence wrong in a way you feel deep in your chest. And at their center walks a woman taller than any of them, her cloak stitched from raven feathers, her eyes pale as moonlit ice. She carries no weapon, but every man who sees her steps back without meaning to. The Verlva's voice whispers in your memory, colder now than the sea itself. Fire will take what you become. The woman in feathers raises her hand, palm open, and the masked warriors halt. You do not belong here, she says softly, but her voice carries like thunder through the trees. This is the shore where oaths are broken and blood remembers. Turn back or be remembered with it. Einar steps forward, jaw set, voice steady despite the tremor in his hands. We seek only a way home, he says. No quarrel, no claim. The woman tilts her head, studying him as though he's an insect pinned beneath. The drums throb like a second heartbeat, echoing through the damp forest until they live under your ribs. The raven woman stands silent before you, her pale eyes steady, unblinking. Her warriors tall, masked, their obsidian spearheads dripping with mist, form a half circle behind her, sealing every path but the one you came from. You hear Arn's breath, sharp and quick, as his fingers tighten around the haft of his axe. Einar, though older and slower, sets his feet like a cliff bracing for tide. You feel the weight of every decision pressing on your shoulders like a frozen hand. The raven woman lowers her hood. Her hair spills free, black as oil, tangled with strips of woven bone and small raven skulls polished smooth. When she speaks, her voice is soft but carries like wind through pine. Strangers, she says, Children of the Whale Road. You trespass where men are forbidden. The land remembers what the sea does not. You swallow hard, forcing your voice through a throat made dry by fear. We are shipwrecked. We seek shelter, food, a way home. Home, her lips twitch almost into a smile. The storm took your home. The sea has already chosen for you. She takes one slow step forward, the feathers of her cloak rustling like wings. The warriors part to let her pass, their masked faces turning to follow her movements, silent as carved idols. You stand, she says, upon Arvikar strand, the shore of bones. Her pale hand gestures toward the massive ribcage you saw half buried on the beach. Here, long before your jarls drew breath, the gods spilled the blood of giants. It salted the soil, soured the roots, and woke things that should have slept forever. Arn mutters under his breath, voice rough with unease. This land is cursed. The raven woman's gaze slides to him, sharp as a spearpoint. Not cursed, she says softly, claimed. The drums stop again. Silence folds in like a closing fist. You may live, she continues, if you swear an oath. Einar frowns. An oath to whom? Her pale eyes settle on you. Not Arn. Not Einar, you to me. The words are simple, but they land like stone dropped into deep water. Arn takes a half step forward, placing himself between you and her. Why him? He demands. Take me if you want a sword arm. She tilts her head, raven feathers shifting in the faint breeze. Because the sea did not spare him by chance. Your stomach knots. What does that mean? The raven woman extends her hand, palm up. On it lies a shard of polished obsidian, smooth as still water, etched with a spiral of runes that seem to shimmer faintly when the lantern light touches them. Kneel, she says, and swear your blood to my shadow. Do this and you may leave Arvikar strand alive. You glance at Arn. His jaw clenches, knuckles white on his axe haft. Einar shakes his head once, slow, deliberate. Don't, he murmurs, low enough only you hear. Oaths here are never what they seem. The raven woman watches you like a wolf watching a stag stumble. Behind her, her masked warriors stand still as gravestones, their spears tipped slightly downward, not threatening, not relaxed, just waiting. Why us? You manage to ask. Why now? Her expression softens almost imperceptibly. Because you carry something older than you know, she whispers. Your blood remembers the first storm. Sooner or later, every bloodline does. You stare at the obsidian shard in her hand. For a moment, the surface seems to ripple, reflecting not your face but something darker. Horned shadows, coiling shapes beneath endless water, a voice calling from very far below. The Verva's warning curls in the back of your skull like smoke. Sea will take what you love. Fire will take what you become. Somewhere deep within the forest, a howl answers the drums. A sound not wolf, not man, something stretched too far between both. Arn curses softly, raising his shield without thinking. The masked warriors don't react at all. The raven woman lowers her hand slightly, though the shard still gleams like trapped night. Choose, she says. Kneel or bleed where you stand. Einar leans close, his whisper hot against your ear. If you swear, we live, but we'll owe her. If you refuse, we fight and die on land that isn't ours. Arn spits on the moss, shaking his head. No oath is worth what she'll take. The drums start again, slow, measured, patient. You feel every eye upon you, the masked warriors, Arn, Einar, the raven woman's pale, unblinking gaze. The storm may have spared you, but the land demands something in return. And you know, as your hand hovers above the obsidian shard, that whichever choice you make will decide not just your fate, but the fate of every man who still breathes beside you. Before you can choose, the forest itself interrupts you. A single horn blast tears the silence, a deep, booming note from far inland. The raven woman's masked warriors stiffen, their heads snapping toward the sound. The pale woman narrows her eyes and exhales slowly, feathers shifting around her shoulders. They come, she murmurs. Arn grips his axe tighter. Who? The raven woman meets your gaze. The dead. And somewhere beyond the trees, hundreds of feet drum against the earth in unison. The first thing you hear is the earth. A deep, steady rumble, too even to be thunder, too alive to be wind. The forest floor trembles under your boots as if something vast stirs beneath the roots. Ravens explode from the canopy, their wings slicing the damp air, their cries jagged and urgent. The raven woman raises her hand, and her masked warriors shift like shadows cut loose from their posts. Spears tilt forward, shields lock into a seamless wall of blackened wood. No words are spoken, yet their movements are perfect, practiced, ritual. Einar mutters an oath under his breath, voice sharp as flint. By Thor's hammer, what's coming? They were men, the raven woman says, soft but steady, pale eyes fixed on the tree line. Once. Arn lets out a low, humorless laugh. That's comforting. Then the drums stop. The silence after is worse than any battle cry. Your ears strain for sound, but the forest holds its breath. Even the wind dies. For a heartbeat, the world is still. And then you see them. At first you think the mist moves strangely, low shapes drifting between the trees. But as they come closer, the shapes become forms and the forms become bodies. Men, dozens, scores. A tide of figures marching in unnatural unison, their bare feet leaving no mark on the sodden earth. Their skin is pale and waxen, their eyes clouded white, and their mouths hang open as if mid-breath but making no sound. Draugr. The word slips past Arn's lips like a curse given shape. Each one wears the remnants of battle, rusted mail, shattered shields, splintered axes still clutched in rotting hands. Some have arrows jutting from their ribs, others bear wounds that should have ended them days, weeks, years ago. But they march all the same. At their center rises something worse. A towering figure, taller than any man, clad in cracked bronze plates etched with runes that bleed faint light. Its helm is fused to its skull, and from beneath it spills a mane of seaweed-black hair slick with brine. In its right hand it grips a spear longer than a mast, its point jagged and crusted with salt and bone. The raven woman whispers a single name, reverent and afraid at once. Haravalar. Einar stiffens. Who? She turns her pale gaze on you without answering, then draws her obsidian blade from beneath her cloak. The edge drinks what little light filters through the trees. They are bound to the first oath, she says, her voice taut as a bowstring. The storm woke them. The bones remember. The Draugr break the tree line, moving in eerie silence, their milky eyes reflecting the faint glow of their leader's runes. The masked warriors brace, lowering their spears, the obsidian tips aimed like the teeth of a single beast. Stay behind me, Arn growls, raising his axe. His knuckles are white, but his stance is firm, steady. Beside him, Einar kneels, drawing his seeks with one hand and pressing his other palm against the wet soil. His lips move around an old prayer you've never heard him speak before. The raven woman steps forward, cloak spreading like wings, her voice cutting through the thickening mist. Go back to the sea, Haravalar. The stones remember your oath. The earth does not want you here. For a moment the march falters. Then the towering Draugr lifts his massive spear and drives its butt into the ground. The sound cracks through the forest like splitting bone. The dead charge. The masked warriors meet them first, obsidian spears plunging into pale flesh that does not bleed. Draugr collapse and rise again, arrows sticking from their throats, axes splitting their skulls only to watch them lurch forward, unbroken. One slams into you, the weight of its body cold and heavy. Its face is inches from yours, jaws slack, teeth black with rot. You drive your seeks into its chest, feeling ribs crack beneath the blade, but it doesn't scream, doesn't even breathe. Arn's axe sweeps across its neck, separating head from shoulders, and still its arms claw toward you until Einar smashes the skull with a rock. The air fills with the stink of wet earth, rot and iron. Mist curls around your knees, slick with churned soil and the black ichor that leaks from the Draugr's wounds like oil. The masked warriors hold the line, silent and relentless, their obsidian tips shattering bone with surgical precision. Then Haravalar moves. He wades into the fray like a boulder falling into a stream, scattering men and dead alike. One masked warrior thrusts a spear at his side. Haravalar catches it mid-shaft and snaps it as if it were willow. With his free hand, he grabs the warrior's skull and crushes it, mask and bone exploding together. Arn curses, dragging you backward as the giant's pale gaze locks on you. "We can't fight that," he shouts. "Not with what we have." The Raven Woman turns sharply, her feathers whipping in the wind. The world shrinks to the shard in your hand. Obsidian smooth as frozen night, runes curling across its surface like trapped lightning. It hums faintly, warm, alive, as if it knows what it wants from you. Behind you, the forest trembles beneath the weight of marching Draugr. Before you, Haravalar towers like a storm-given flesh, his spear of salt and bone raised high, runes blazing with a light older than the gods themselves. The Raven Woman's voice cuts through the chaos, low but sharp, carved from command and desperation. "Speak the name when I give it. Do not falter. Do not lie. The shard knows." You draw your seeks across your palm without thinking, the edge biting deep. Hot blood spills into the cold air, steaming faintly as it touches the shard. The runes carved into the black stone blaze crimson, as though drinking your life into themselves. "Say it," she cries, and the word rips free of her throat like thunder. "Esvither." The name rolls through you, deep and terrible. You speak it, the syllables burning like molten iron on your tongue. The shard pulses in your hand once, twice, and then a roar rips through the forest that isn't yours, isn't hers, isn't even human. The earth cracks beneath your knees. Haravalar halts mid-strike, the point of his spear hovering inches from a masked warrior's chest. His milky eyes flare with a sudden, unnatural light, and for the first time since he emerged from the mist, the Death Lord breathes. A sound like wind through hollow stone spills from his chest. Then he turns his gaze on you. 1,000 heartbeats seem to pass between one blink and the next. You feel something vast reach toward you, not with hands, but with memory, as if your blood is no longer yours but a river flowing backward through time. Images flash, too fast to grasp. A sky shattered by fire. Giants screaming as waves swallow their bones. Men kneeling on this very shore, cutting their palms, whispering oaths into black stone. A shadow so enormous it blots out the sun, crowned in horns and frost. Your knees nearly buckle beneath the weight of it. Then the shard shatters. A burst of crimson light floods the mist, blinding you. The air grows heavy, thick with pressure that pushes into your ears and chest. When your sight clears, Haravalar's spear is lowered. His head tilts slightly, as if acknowledging you. The Raven Woman steps forward, breath ragged, feathers of her cloak slick with rain and ichor. Her pale eyes fix on you, wide and unblinking. "You bound him," she whispers, "by blood and name. He is yours now." Arn stares at you like he's never seen you before. What did you just do?" You can't answer because you don't know. Your hand still drips blood, but the shard is gone, dissolved into nothing but a faint scent of scorched earth. Einar kneels in the mud, his weathered face carved into awe and fear. "He's no man anymore," he says softly. "He's a key." The masked warriors step back, forming a circle around you and Haravalar, their obsidian spearheads lowered in ritual salute. The Death Lord turns slowly, his movements deliberate, ancient, as though the weight of centuries rests on his shoulders. The Draugr army freezes behind him, unmoving, silent. Dozens no, hundreds of pale, empty-eyed soldiers stand perfectly still, waiting. "They answer only to him," the Raven Woman says quietly. "And now, by oath, he answers to you." You open your mouth to speak, but the ground shakes violently beneath your feet. From deep within the forest, a sound rises, low, grinding, endless, as if stone against stone, earth against earth. Trees topple in the distance, their splintering roars carried on the wind. Birds erupt from the canopy, fleeing inland. The Raven Woman's expression hardens, the faintest shadow crossing her pale features. "The awakening spreads," she says. "The old wards are failing." Einar's voice is tight. "What does that mean?" She turns to you, her gaze sharp as obsidian. "It means Arvikar Strand will drown again as it did in the First War. And unless you leave this land before the sun sets twice, the oath you've taken will drag you down with it." Arn shakes his head, wiping blood from his axe. Leave. After that, he gestures to the army of Draugr frozen in the mist. We've got a corpse king and a legion at our back. Why run when we could take everything? The Raven Woman turns her pale gaze on him, and for the first time, her voice hardens like iron. Because these are not soldiers, she says softly. They are anchors, each one tied to the bones below. If they march too far from this shore, the sea will rise to reclaim them. You realize then that the army is both power and prison. The Death Lord Haravalar moves, his massive spear dragging grooves in the soil, and lowers his head slightly toward you. It isn't a bow, but it feels close. Somehow, without words, you understand. He waits for your command. But before you can speak, the Raven Woman presses something cold into your uncut hand. A ring, hammered from black iron, carved with the same runes as the shard. Keep this close, she whispers. It binds the bond. But the mist coils thick around your boots, swallowing the forest floor until the world feels unmoored, as if the earth itself drifts beneath you. Haravalar stands silent at your side, his spearpoint planted deep into the damp soil. Behind him, the Draugr army waits motionless, their pale eyes glowing faintly through the shifting fog. The Raven Woman watches the tree line, her hand resting lightly on the hilt of her obsidian blade. Her feathers drip cold rain, each droplet sliding like ink down her cloak. When she speaks, her voice is quieter than before but sharper than steel. They're waking. Arn spits into the mud, jaw tight, his knuckles pale around his axe. Who's they? We've just fought through a legion of dead, bound a corpse king to an oath older than the gods, and now you're telling me there's more. She doesn't look at him when she answers. The Draugr are soldiers, she says, eyes fixed on the distant trees. But something commands soldiers, something deeper, older. The storm woke Haravalar and his legion, but it also stirred what sleeps beneath the roots of this land. Einar frowns, rubbing at the water dripping from his beard. Beneath the roots, he echoes. You mean underground? The Raven Woman finally turns, her pale gaze finding yours. Beneath everything, she says. Beneath the bones, beneath the sea. Beneath the first earth the gods ever split from chaos. Your hand unconsciously closes around the black iron ring she gave you, its runes faintly warm against your palm. What wakes? You ask softly, though you're not sure you want the answer. She hesitates before saying the name, as if shaping it aloud risks summoning it closer. Jörmungandr. The word tastes wrong, heavy and wet, like seawater swallowed too deep. The sound of it stirs the mist itself, makes the ravens above shift uneasily on their perches. Arn curses under his breath. Never heard of it. Einar, however, stiffens, his face paling under his salt-crusted beard. I have, he says. My grandmother used to whisper of it when I was a boy, said it was the name of the deep hunger, the thing the gods drowned when the world was new. The Raven Woman nods once, slow and grim. Not drowned, she corrects. Chained. Beneath Arvikar strand, but chains rust and oaths fail. And the storm, she glances at you, voice lowering to a near whisper. The storm cracked one of the seals. Before you can answer, the ground shudders beneath your feet. Not the thunder of marching Draugr this time. Something deeper. A low, distant groan like the earth exhaling after holding its breath too long. The air grows damp and heavy, the mist thickening until you can barely see Arn at your shoulder. Then you hear it. Not drums. Not wind. A sound like 1,000 voices whispering just beyond the edge of hearing, layered atop one another, a susurrus of drowned words pulled up from the seabed. For a moment, you think it comes from the forest, but then you realize it comes from below. The Raven Woman hisses sharply, switching to a language older than your clan's oldest songs. The masked warriors echo her words in unison, their obsidian-tipped spears lowering into a defensive ring around the group. Haravalar shifts his weight, runes along his broken bronze armor sparking faintly in the mist. Arn grips your arm hard enough to bruise. Tell me you hear that. You nod, throat dry. I do. Good, he mutters, jaw set. Means I'm not mad yet. Einar crouches, pressing his palm to the damp earth, eyes closed. When he speaks, his voice trembles despite his best efforts. There's water moving under us, he whispers. Fast, too fast for any river. The Raven Woman finishes her chant, exhaling sharply as if the words themselves burn. It's rising, she says. The deep stirs. One of the masked warriors steps forward suddenly, kneeling before her and pressing his forehead to the soil. He speaks in a low, urgent voice you don't understand, but whatever he says makes her pale even further. Then she looks at you. You need to command Haravalar, she says, urgent now, her feathers quivering in the damp wind. Send the Draugr back to their graves, while you still can. Your hand tightens on the ring instinctively. What happens if I don't? Her pale gaze sharpens like drawn steel. Then when Jörmungandr wakes, there will be no graves left to send them back to. Before you can answer, the forest erupts. The earth splits open barely 20 paces ahead, spraying mud, stone, and shards of ancient bone into the mist. A stench like rotting kelp and blood floods the air. From the fissure crawls something vast and slick, pale as drowned flesh, its surface glistening with seawater despite being miles from the shore. A single tendril, thick as a mast, coils upward, tipped with barbs that drip black ichor sizzling against the earth. Where the ichor lands, moss dies instantly, curling into brittle ash. The whispers rise to a deafening roar, layered with 1,000 voices crying out in a tongue you cannot understand, but feel inside your bones. Haravalar slams his spear into the ground, the runes along its shaft flaring bright enough to burn through the mist. The Draugr behind him stir as one, a ripple passing through the silent legion. The Death Lord turns his pale, burning gaze to you, waiting. Arn leans close, voice low and shaking. Tell me we run. Einar answers for you, his tone grim and flat. If we run, he says, we die tired. The Raven Woman steps beside you, obsidian blade drawn, her breath cold against your ear. Command him, she whispers, or Arvikr Strand drowns before the sun rises. The fissure widens with a groan like mountains grinding together. Pebbles and roots tumble into the darkness below as the pale tendril coils upward, higher than the treetops, slick with seawater though the ocean lies far behind. The stench of brine and rot crawls down your throat, bitter and cold, tasting of old shipwrecks and drowned things forgotten. Haravalar plants his spear in the earth and roars, a sound like glaciers breaking, a voice torn from centuries of silence. The Draugr army answers as one, their milky eyes igniting faintly blue, shields clanging against spears in a single, bone-rattling rhythm. The Raven Woman grips your arm, her fingers cold and strong. Now, she hisses, command him before the deep fully wakes. You raise the black iron ring she gave you, feeling the runes burn faintly against your palm. The Death Lord's head turns toward you, mist curling around his broken bronze helm. Somehow, without speaking, you know the command will come from blood, not words. You slice your palm again, hot crimson dripping into the damp soil. The ring drinks it instantly, the runes flaring to life. You feel something pull, not from the air, not from Haravalar, but from inside you, as though threads buried deep in your veins have been tied to the Legion of the Dead. The whispering beneath the earth sharpens into screaming. Hold the line, you shout, though your voice feels small compared to the forces at play. Yet Haravalar hears. The Death Lord lifts his spear, runes blazing like trapped lightning, and slams it into the ground with such force the very forest shakes. The Draugr move. Their ranks close, shields locking, spears angled forward in perfect unison. A wall of dead flesh and iron, an army older than the stones beneath your feet. Arn mutters something between awe and horror, tightening his grip on his axe. Then from the fissure, the whispers surge into a single voice. Fed us. The sound tears at your mind like claws on stone, making your knees buckle. Einar drops to one hand, gritting his teeth, blood trickling from his nose. Arn swears, shaking his head violently as if to drive the voice out. Only the Raven Woman stands unmoving, her pale gaze fixed on the widening rift. Jörmungandr stirs, she whispers, her voice strangely reverent. The first hunger, the drowned god, the one even Odin feared. The pale tendril lashes forward suddenly, striking the Draugr wall with bone-crushing force. Shields splinter, bodies scatter like driftwood on storm waves. 3 of the dead are flung high into the trees, snapping branches before crashing back into the mist. But the wall reforms, silent, relentless, obedient. Haravalar steps into the gap, swinging his spear in a wide, brutal arc. The barbed tip bites deep into the tendril's flesh, spraying black ichor across the forest floor. It hisses like molten metal on ice, burning moss and leaves into curling ash. The thing beneath the earth shrieks. It's not a sound made for mortal ears. It rips through you, a vibration that shatters thought, a voice layered with thousands of drowned screams. The fissure erupts wider, chunks of stone tumbling inward as more tendrils burst free, writhing, seeking, hungering. The Raven Woman moves to your side, her feathers slicked with rain and ichor. "Listen to me," she says sharply, pale eyes locked on yours. "The oath binds the Draugr, but only your blood can seal the rift. You carry a Svither's mark now, that's why you were spared." You shake your head, heart pounding. "Seal it." "How?" She presses something cold and heavy into your hand. A dagger carved entirely from obsidian, its surface etched with spiraling runes that seem to breathe faint light. "Drive this into the earth where the first blood touches," she says. "Then speak the oath you swore." Before you can reply, Arn shouts your name. One of the tendrils has slipped past the Draugr shield wall, barbs whistling through the air like thrown axes. You dive aside as it slams into the soil, tearing a furrow through wet roots where you stood a heartbeat ago. Einar hurls his seeks into the tendril, burying the blade deep into its slick flesh. Black ichor sprays, stinking of salt and grave dirt. Arn wrenches you upright, his voice hoarse with panic. "Whatever she gave you, do it now." Haravalar bellows, swinging his spear once more, carving another deep gash into the writhing appendage. The Draugr press forward like a tide of pale shields, holding the lines as more and more tendrils erupt around you. The earth shakes violently beneath your knees, the fissure widening until you glimpse something vast moving in the dark far below, too large for thought, too old for names. A single eye, lidless and drowned, opens in the depths, its gaze sweeping over the forest like a cold tide. Your blood freezes. The whispers become one voice again, deep and hollow, rising like a tide through your bones. "Come down ta us." The Raven Woman grabs your face suddenly, forcing your eyes away from the rift. "Don't look at it," she snarls. "If you see it, you'll follow it down." The obsidian dagger burns in your hand now, the runes glowing brighter with every heartbeat. You know you have only moments before the earth splits wide enough to swallow everything, Draugr, forest, and flesh alike. But if you drive the dagger into the soil, if you seal the rift, you don't know what price the oath will demand. Haravalar turns his helm toward you, pale light burning in his dead eyes. Waiting, obedient, trusting. Arn grips your shoulder, panting. "Tell me there's another way." "There isn't," the Raven Woman says. The earth screams beneath you. The choice can't wait. The ground beneath your knees trembles like a dying beast, the fissure widening with a groan deep enough to rattle your bones. Heat rises from the rift, damp and foul, carrying the stink of salt water and rotting kelp, as though the ocean itself boils beneath the earth. Above the mist, the pale tendrils of Jörmungandr thrash against the Draugr shield wall, splintering spears and snapping corpses like driftwood. Haravalar stands at the center of the chaos, his massive spear blazing with runes, carving arcs of raw power into the storm. Every strike from the Death Lord shakes the forest. Every movement of his arm scatters the writhing limbs of the thing beneath. But for every tendril he severs, 2 more rise, pale and slick, barbed like the teeth of ancient beasts. The Raven Woman is beside you, her obsidian blade drawn, feathers slick with ichor and rain. Her pale eyes burn with an intensity sharper than steel as she seizes your wrist, forcing the obsidian dagger into your bleeding hand. Now, she shouts above the roar. Drive it into the earth where the rift breathes deepest. Arn grabs your other arm, his grip iron-hard. You don't even know what this oath will cost you. Her gaze snaps to him, voice low and cold as a raven's cry. He carries Svither's blood. This is why the sea spared him. He is the key. Einar snarls, slashing at a barbed tendril creeping too close. Key or curse, we die either way if that rift opens any wider. The earth moans again, the sound too vast for mortal ears. You stumble forward, the obsidian dagger glowing faintly in your blood-soaked palm. It feels alive, throbbing with each heartbeat, the runes crawling beneath your skin like fireflies trapped under glass. And then the whispers come again, not from the fissure this time, from inside your skull. Blood that remembers, come back to us, come down, you stagger, clutching your temple as visions rip through your mind. A sea frozen solid under a sky full of shattered stars. Armies of men and giants locked in slaughter, their screams swallowed by an endless tide. A colossal figure chained beneath black water, its face hidden, its horns scraping against the roof of the world. A ring, the very one on your finger, glowing with the light of stolen fire. You fall to your knees at the rift's edge, breath ragged, the roar of the deep deafening. Arn kneels beside you, shaking your shoulder hard. Stay with me. Don't you dare follow it. The raven woman kneels opposite him, her voice sharp as the edge of her blade. He must follow it, she says, but only far enough to close it again. Her hand closes over yours, guiding the dagger down toward the rift. The runes flare brighter, burning crimson now, feeding on your blood and something older, something threaded deep within your bones. Speak the words, she commands. The oath binds through voice. You try to speak, but the air catches in your throat. Then from somewhere beyond your conscious thought, the words come, not learned, not remembered, but remembering you. Blath mit, bane min, vith Svither bunden, my blood, my bones, to Svither bound. The moment the words leave your lips, the dagger plunges into the earth. The ground screams. A pulse of crimson light explodes outward from the rift, throwing Draugr and warriors alike into the mud. The tendrils of Jörmungandr convulse violently, black ichor spraying in every direction as the earth itself rises to meet them. Roots, stone and bone twist upward, wrapping around the writhing limbs like 1,000 skeletal hands dragging the deep back beneath the soil. Haravalar roars, driving his spear into the fissure. The runes along his broken bronze armor blaze like lightning trapped in metal, feeding into the seal. One by one, the tendrils retreat, shrieking soundlessly as they are pulled back into the abyss. The fissure narrows, the whispers fade. For a moment there is silence. You collapse to your knees, chest heaving, the dagger still buried in the earth, its runes cooling from crimson to faint embers. Arn grabs your shoulder, pulling you back, scanning your face for signs you're still yourself. Then the raven woman speaks, her voice low but steady, carrying the weight of something inevitable. It is sealed for now. Einar stumbles forward, wiping ichor from his beard, his breathing ragged. For now, he growls. That thing should be locked for eternity. The raven woman's pale gaze fixes on the obsidian dagger. An oath sealed by blood lasts only as long as the bloodline, she says softly. And the seal now rests with him. Arn turns to you, eyes wide, voice low. What does she mean? The raven woman answers without looking away from the dagger. If he dies, she whispers, Arvikr Strand dies with him. The silence that follows is colder than any storm. Behind you, the Draugr army stands frozen once more, their milky eyes dimmed, silent and obedient. Haravalar turns toward you, lowering his massive spear, kneeling in the mud. For the first time, the Death Lord bows. The raven woman steps closer, her feathers brushing your shoulder. You carry Svither's burden now, she says softly, and the deep will not forget. From far off, carried on the wind, you hear another sound, the dull, rhythmic beating of war drums, distant but growing closer. Arn curses under his breath. Please tell me that's not more of them. The raven woman doesn't answer. Her pale gaze fixes on the southern horizon, where faint orange light flickers through the mist. Not them, she says finally. The living. The forest holds its breath. Somewhere far away, another war is marching toward you. The mist trembles as the low thrum of drums grows louder, steady and relentless, rolling through the pines like distant thunder. The scent of smoke rides the wind, faint but unmistakable, carried from the south where the orange glow smolders beyond the dark horizon. Arn shifts uneasily, wiping black ichor from his axe. "We've barely survived the dead," he mutters, voice low, sharp with exhaustion. "Now the living come for us." The Raven Woman doesn't answer immediately. She kneels by the rift, pressing her palm flat against the damp soil where the obsidian dagger still rests, buried to its hilt. Her pale eyes close, and for a moment the forest grows unnaturally still, as though even the birds hold their breath. When she finally speaks, her voice is quiet but certain. "They are not here by chance," she whispers. "Something called them, perhaps the storm, perhaps the seal." Einar grunts, leaning on his seeks like a crutch. "Or perhaps they saw the sky bleeding crimson and thought there were riches here." Arn spits into the mud, shaking his head. "Whoever they are, they're marching straight into Hell's Maw." He gestures to the Draugr army still standing silent and unmoving behind you. "If they see that, they'll think we've bound Ragnarok itself." You glance over your shoulder at Haravalar. The Death Lord remains kneeling, his pale gaze fixed on the earth, one massive hand resting on his spear. The legion behind him stands perfectly still, eyes dimmed but waiting, like an ocean caught between tides, silent but ready to rise at a breath. "Maybe," you murmur, gripping the black ring on your finger, "that's exactly what they'll believe." The Raven Woman straightens, feathers rustling, her pale face turned southward. "These are not farmers with axes," she says softly. "These are warriors. I smell iron and ash on the wind." She steps closer to you, her obsidian blade glinting faintly. "If they are who I fear," she says, "then your oath has already marked you. They will come for you first." Arn snorts. "I'd like to see them try." But before you can answer, the forest shivers with another sound, deep horns, 3 short blasts carried over the mist, each one closer than the last. Einar stiffens instantly, jaw clenching. "That's no clan I know," he says, "and I know them all." The Raven Woman's pale eyes flash toward him. "You don't know these," she whispers. Moments later they emerge. Out of the fog come ranks of warriors clad in dark lamellar armor, their helms low and crested with polished bronze plates shaped like curling serpents. Their shields are broad, painted with spiraling knotwork, and their axes are long-handled, sharpened to a butcher's edge. At their head walks a tall figure cloaked in scarlet wool, his face hidden behind a mask of beaten iron, etched with 3 vertical slashes where the eyes should be. A banner unfurls above them, embroidered in gold thread that catches the faint light. A serpent swallowing its own tail, looped around a single rune. The Raven Woman exhales sharply. "Eske Jolbrithir," she whispers, voice taut as a bowstring. Arn frowns, wiping his blade clean on his sleeve. "Shield brothers. Thought they were just stories." Einar grimaces, shaking his head. "They're no story, raiders, mercenaries, oath-bound only to silver and slaughter." The scarlet-cloaked leader raises a gloved hand and the drums stop instantly. The silence that follows is heavy, expectant. His gaze, or what passes for it behind the iron mask, sweeps across the battlefield. The shattered trees, the sealed rift, the pale Draugr standing silent behind you. Then he speaks, his voice deep and distorted behind the mask, carrying strangely in the mist. "You," he says simply, pointing a ringed finger at you. "The one who commands the dead." A murmur runs through his ranks, shields shifting, axes tightening in hands. You feel Arn stiffen at your side, his knuckles white on his weapon, ready to leap before you can speak. But the Raven Woman steps forward, feathers shivering softly around her shoulders. "Leave this shore," she calls, voice clear and cold. "The dead walk here under oath. Cross this line and your names will never reach your gods." For a long moment, silence. Then the masked leader tilts his head slightly, almost in amusement. "The dead do not frighten us," he says calmly. "But you," he gestures at you again. "You hold something worth more than silver, more than gold, The ring on your hand. Give it to me and you and your men walk free. Arn's laugh is sharp, bitter, dangerous. Or, he says, hefting his axe, we split you from crown to collar and take your gold instead. The scarlet-cloaked leader's helm turns toward him slowly. He says nothing, just lifts his hand and closes it into a fist. The Eskay-Jolbrithyr lower their spears as one. Einar leans close to you, his voice low, urgent. We're outnumbered 2-1. If we fight, we'll bleed out before the Draugr even move. The Raven Woman doesn't look away from the enemy ranks. If we give them the ring, she says softly, the seal breaks. The deep wakes again. Haravalar shifts, his spear grinding against the earth as though sensing your indecision. The silent legion behind him stirs faintly, shields creaking in the mist. Arn bares his teeth in a grin sharp as iron. Then we don't give them a choice. The drums begin again, slow, measured, the sound of an approaching storm. You stand between two armies, the living, hungry for blood, and the dead, bound to your will. One command from you will decide whether this shore becomes a graveyard, or a warning carved into saga. The drums pound like a second heart, steady and relentless, rolling across the mist-cloaked forest until the air itself vibrates with tension. On one side, the Eskay-Jolbrithyr, mercenaries forged in blood and coin, stand in perfect ranks, their serpent-crested helms catching the dim orange glow from the burning south. On the other, your pale legion waits in silence, Draugr shields locked, spears lowered, their empty eyes reflecting faint light like still water. Between them, the sealed rift pulses faintly, the earth still warm beneath your boots. The whispers are gone now, but the memory of Jörmungandr stirs deep inside you, coiled like a sleeping serpent. The scarlet-cloaked leader of the Eskay-Jolbrithyr steps forward, his boots sinking slightly into the wet earth. He moves with calm precision, a predator among predators. His iron mask glints faintly as he speaks again, voice deep and hollow. Give me the ring, he says. Surrender the dead to me. Do so and you leave this shore alive. Arn laughs bitterly, lowering his axe just enough to hide the tremor in his arm. Come take it, he growls. We'll hang that pretty mask on the nearest pine. The leader tilts his head slowly, studying you instead. You command them, he says softly, almost reverently. An army that does not breathe, does not bleed. Do you even know what you hold? You grip the black ring, feeling the faint throb of heat beneath your skin. Enough to send you all to hell's gates, you answer, though your voice wavers on the edges of exhaustion. The Eskay-Jolbrithyr leader chuckles low behind his mask, the sound dry and humorless. So be it, he says simply and lowers his hand. The drums stop. For one terrible heartbeat, the world holds its breath. Then the Eskay-Jolbrithyr charge. The ground trembles beneath the thunder of boots, shields slamming together, spears lowered like the horns of charging bulls. Their war cry rips the mist in two, raw and brutal, a sound older than language itself. You raise your hand, the ring burns. Haravalar, you shout, voice breaking through the roar. Hold the line, the Death Lord moves. With a guttural roar, Haravalar slams his massive spear into the earth, and the Draugr legion surges forward as one, shields locking in a wall of pale bone and splintered wood. Their silence is more terrifying than the Eskay-Jolbrithyr's cries. They hit like the tide, relentless, unyielding. The first clash is thunder. Spears splinter, shields shatter, blades bite into flesh and rot alike. The mist fills with the copper tang of blood and the acrid stench of ichor. A Eskay-Jolbrithyr axe carves into a Draugr's chest, splitting bone clean through. Yet the corpse simply pushes forward, driving its spear into the man's throat without pause. Arn roars beside you, his axe whirling in brutal arcs, splitting helms and shields alike. Einar moves slower but surer, his Sikhs darting between gaps in armor, striking where blood flows fastest. The Raven Woman moves like a shadow among shadows, her obsidian blade slicing tendons, vanishing before counterstrikes can find her. But the Eskay-Jolbrithyr are no common raiders. Their discipline holds even as their front ranks crumble. Their shield wall bends but doesn't break, reforming instantly, driving wedges into the Draugr lines. Flaming jars arc through the mist, shattering against rotting bodies, setting pale flesh alight with hungry orange tongues. Draugr burn silently, marching still until they collapse into blackened heaps. You raise your hand again, pouring your will into the oath-bound army. Forward, you command, and Haravalar answers with a roar, smashing a Sk Joldbrithir shieldman into the mud with his spear. The Death Lord wades into their center like a falling tree, his size and fury scattering men like dry leaves. Then the Sk Joldbrithir leader moves. He steps into the chaos without hesitation, cutting through the melee with terrifying precision. His twin axes flash like lightning, biting through Draugr limbs, severing pale heads from shoulders in smooth, practiced arcs. No wasted motion, no sound but steel. Haravalar sees him. The Death Lord strides forward, towering over the masked warrior, his runes blazing like captured stars. He thrusts his spear, a strike heavy enough to pierce oak and bone alike. The leader sidesteps. The spear sinks into the mud, missing by a hair's breadth. The masked warrior drives both axes into Haravalar's arm, biting deep into dead flesh. The Death Lord bellows, spinning with a backhand that sends the man skidding across the battlefield, his boots carving trenches through the wet soil. But he rises, slowly, deliberately. The iron mask tilts toward you. Even through the chaos, you feel his gaze, cold and calculating like a wolf weighing its prey. Yours, he says softly, almost to himself, before hurling one of his axes straight at you. Arn slams into you, knocking you sideways as the axe whistles past your head, burying itself into a Draugr's skull with a wet crunch. Stay behind me, Arn snarls, gripping his axe tighter. I'll cut that bastard's legs out from under him myself. But before you can answer, the Raven Woman's voice cuts through the din, sharp and urgent. Do not let him touch the ring. Your hand tightens instinctively, the heat of the runes searing against your skin. Across the battlefield, the masked leader retrieves his fallen weapon and begins advancing, not toward Haravalar, not toward the Draugr, but directly toward you. The Sk Joldbrithir tighten their lines behind him, their formation reforming into a deadly spearpoint, driving toward the rift like a blade. The battlefield falls strangely silent when the masked leader speaks your name. Not shouted, not growled, whispered. Yet it cuts through the chaos sharper than steel, threading its way through the clang of iron, the scream of dying men, and the pounding drums. Arn freezes at your side, eyes wide. How, he stammers, voice rough with disbelief, how in hell's name does he know you? You don't answer because you can't. You've never seen this man before, never heard his voice. Yet somehow, in the deepest marrow of your bones, the sound of your name rolling from behind that iron mask feels familiar. The Raven Woman steps forward, obsidian blade raised, feathers rustling softly in the damp wind. Her pale eyes fix on the scarlet-cloaked figure like twin shards of ice. Stay behind me, she commands, her voice colder than the northern fjords. The masked leader halts just out of reach, his twin axes resting loosely in his hands. The mist curls around his feet like smoke around a pyre. When he speaks, his voice is low, distorted by the mask, yet calm, measured. You wear a Svither's mark, he says simply, and you think you found it by chance. Your grip tightens on the black ring, the metal searing faintly against your skin. What do you want? You demand, though your voice shakes despite your effort to steady it. He tilts his head slightly, studying you like a hawk studies prey. Not want, he replies softly. Oh, before you can question him, Haravalar charges. The Death Lord roars, spear raised, a wall of pale fury crashing forward. The Sk Joldbrithir leader sidesteps with impossible speed, his axes flashing in brutal arcs. Sparks leap where bronze meets steel. Each strike sends shockwaves through the ground, scattering dirt and ash into the mist. Draugr surge around their master, silent and relentless, but the Sk Joldbrithir intercept them with ruthless precision. Shields lock, spears thrust, axes descend. living muscle and dead flesh clashing in brutal silence broken only by the guttural roar of men and the wet crunch of bone. Arn curses under his breath. He's toying with Haravalar. You see it too. For all the Death Lord's strength, every strike he throws is measured, anticipated, deflected at the last possible heartbeat. The masked warrior moves like someone who knows his opponent before the fight even begins. Einar grips his Sikhs tighter, whispering like he's afraid of his own words. This isn't some mercenary. He's trained for this. Trained to fight the Oathbound. The Raven Woman hisses sharply, dragging you backward. Not trained, she says. Chosen. You barely have time to ask what she means before the masked leader slips inside Haravalar's guard, both axes flashing like lightning. One buries deep into the Death Lord's shoulder. The other carves a long, vicious gouge across his ribs. Haravalar staggers, bellowing in pain. But before he can recover, the masked warrior rips his weapon free and steps back, letting the Draugr surge forward to shield their master. He doesn't press the attack, he just stands there, watching you. You feel it, don't you? He calls over the din, his voice calm amidst the slaughter. The seals wait. The whispers in your dreams, that's not chance. That's blood. The words twist in your chest like a hooked blade. The shard, the oath, the visions in the rift, the memory of fire and frost, of chains beneath black seas. Could he be right? The Raven Woman cuts him off, her voice sharp as a spearhead. Do not listen to him. He serves the deep. His words are hooks. But the masked leader laughs softly, shaking his head. No, he says simply, almost sadly. I serve you. Then he tears the mask away. For a moment you forget how to breathe. The man beneath has your face. Older, scarred. A jagged line cuts from his jaw to his brow, and one of his eyes burns faintly with a sickly blue light. But there's no mistaking it. The same cheekbones, the same set of the jaw, the same shape of the mouth. Arn stumbles backward, whispering a prayer under his breath. By all the gods, Einar grips your arm so hard it hurts. This isn't possible, he mutters. No man can look like that. The Raven Woman doesn't move, doesn't blink. Her voice, when it comes, is soft but sharp enough to cut through the storm. It is possible, she says, eyes never leaving the man's face. Because it's not a man you're looking at. The scarred reflection of you smiles faintly, blood trickling down his cheek where Haravalar's spear grazed him. I am a Svither, he says softly, almost gently. And so are you. Before you can answer, the ground beneath the rift cracks violently, spraying shards of stone into the mist. The air grows heavy, thick with the copper stink of something old and rising. The whispers return, louder this time, hungrier. Haravalar slams his spear into the earth, roaring in defiance as the Draugr wall closes again. The Raven Woman grabs your wrist, her voice sharp and urgent. We have to leave, now. If you stay, the rift will claim you both. But a Svither, your reflection, your shadow, raises his axe and points it at you. You can't run from this, he says. The ring has chosen. The seal won't hold without me or without you. The ground trembles again, harder this time. Far beneath, something vast stirs. Two armies fight. The deep wakes. And you stand between your own face and your own fate. The battlefield holds its breath. The clash of steel fades, the drums fall silent, and even the ravens stop their circling cries. Only the whispering beneath the earth remains, a low, endless murmur, like the heartbeat of the drowned god below. A Svither, your reflection, your shadow, stands unmoving, his bare face lit by the dim, shifting glow of the sealed rift. The blue light in his right eye pulses faintly, synchronized with the runes burning beneath your own skin. Arn grips your arm, breath ragged, blood dripping from a gash along his temple. This isn't real, he mutters hoarsely. This isn't you, some trick of the gods, some curse. Einar shakes his head slowly, his Sikhs held tight, knuckles white. No trick, he whispers, voice low, almost reverent. The old sagas spoke of this, the blood mirror, When the seal weakens, the oathbound see themselves. The raven woman steps between you and Svither, her obsidian blade raised, feathers slick with rain and ichor. Her pale eyes burn with cold fire. Step back, she hisses to him. You were bound when the world was young. You will not unmake what has been sealed. Svither tilts his head slightly, his gaze locking on hers. And yet, he says softly, here I stand. He turns back to you, lowering his axes slowly, deliberately, as though trying to show he means no harm. You feel it, don't you? He says, voice low, almost pleading. The weight behind your ribs, the pull in your blood, every breath you take is an echo of mine. You are not my enemy, you are my continuance. The words sink into you like cold iron. The visions from the rift flash behind your eyes, the chains beneath black seas, the burning skies, the endless war between gods and giants. And in every vision, you saw a figure bearing your face, standing where you stand now. Why? You manage to ask, throat tight. Why me? Svither smiles faintly, though there's no warmth in it. Because you are what remains, he says. When they drowned me, when they buried me in the deep, they left threads of me scattered through bloodlines. You are the last thread. The raven woman steps closer, her blade nearly touching his chest. Lies, she hisses. You speak only to undo the seal. You would loose the deep and drag the world into its second drowning. Svither's expression hardens, his faint blue eye flaring brighter. I would save it, he growls, for the first time raising his voice. Do you not hear it beneath us? Do you not feel its hunger? Jörmungandr will rise whether you wish it or not. And when it does, only one of us can command it. The air thickens around you, heavy with the stench of salt and old blood. Far beneath your feet, the whispers surge louder, layered voices merging into one. Fin teke tedep. Haravalar growls low in his chest, dragging his spear against the wet earth, runes blazing faintly in warning. The Draugr respond instantly, shields shifting, formation tightening around you like a fortress of pale bone and silence. Arn steps forward, axe raised. I don't care who he is, he spits. We kill him now before this gets worse. No, the raven woman snaps, her voice cracking like a whip. Strike him and you strike the seal itself. Einar stares between you and Svither, his breath ragged. Then what do we do? Svither answers for her, his gaze fixed entirely on you. Come with me, he says softly. Leave this cursed shore. Together we can strengthen the seal or break it forever. But if you stay, trapped between their blades and the deep's hunger, the earth will swallow you whole. You feel the pull in his words, not magic, not threat, but something deeper. Something in your blood calling back to itself. The raven woman leans close, her whisper sharp and urgent. Listen carefully, she breathes into your ear. He is bound to the first oath, the one made when the gods chained the deep. If he lives, the seal weakens. If he dies, the seal shatters. Either way, Svither is the knife pressed to the world's throat. You stare at him, at yourself, at the reflection of what you could become or what you already are. Then the earth trembles violently, throwing you to your knees. Cracks split the soil around the rift, steaming with heat and brine. The whispers surge into a scream, louder now, urgent, commanding. Blod Kalos Blod, the Eskejolbrithir sees the moment. Their scarlet-cloaked warriors surge forward in tight formation, spears angled like fangs, advancing straight for the rift. Arn shoves you behind him, roaring. Enough talk. They're coming. Haravalar bellows, his Draugr charging to intercept the mercenaries, shields slamming into theirs with bone-cracking force. The battlefield explodes into chaos once again, and through it all, Svither doesn't move. He watches you, waiting. The raven woman grabs your wrist, her grip like cold iron. Choose, she demands, her voice raw and sharp. Trust him or destroy him. The ring on your finger burns, its runes searing into your skin. Haravalar roars your name, his voice booming like a breaking glacier. Somewhere beneath the earth, chains are snapping. The earth convulses beneath your feet. The sealed rift pulses violently, a dull red glow bleeding through cracks in the soil, painting the mist with shifting veins of light. The air reeks of salt and burnt kelp, thick and heavy, as though the entire forest is drowning in unseen tides. Esvither, your shadow, your reflection, stands silent amid the chaos, the blue glow of his eye flaring brighter with every tremor. Behind you, the raven woman hisses something in an ancient tongue, her obsidian blade raised, feathers trembling with the wind. The Eskay charge again, their boots pounding the wet earth in unison, axes and spears flashing under the pale light. Their scarlet banner snaps violently as it cuts through the mist, carried by warriors screaming oaths to nameless gods. Haravalar bellows, lifting his massive spear high. The Draugr surge forward at his command, forming a pale wall of shields and bone. Their silence is more terrible than the mercenaries' war cries, their dead eyes burning faintly like stars drowned beneath dark water. The battlefield crashes into itself once more. Steel meets bone, shields splinter. Flaming jars burst among the Draugr ranks, spraying burning oil that hisses against pale flesh. Smoke coils low, choking, acrid, clinging to your lungs. Arn drags you behind a toppled tree, teeth bared as his axe whirls, cutting down a Eskay who lunges too close. Whatever choice you're about to make, he growls between ragged breaths, make it fast. Einar slams his seeks into the throat of another, kicking the dying man aside. The rift's opening wider, he shouts, pointing with his blade. You turn and freeze. The earth splits further, stone and roots tearing free as a sound like a breaking glacier thunders beneath you. The whispers rise into a deafening roar, layered voices merging into one single, hollow breath. Freya us, af aetes. Esvither steps toward you, his movements slow, deliberate, like a shadow wading through deep water. You hear it too, he says quietly, his voice almost lost in the din. The call, it knows us. The raven woman snaps, stepping between you. No closer, she hisses, obsidian blade raised high. I warned you, one more step and the seal will fail. Esvither ignores her. His glowing eye fixes on yours, and in that instant the battlefield fades, the screams, the clash of steel, even the roar of the deep itself. Listen, he says softly. There is no seal strong enough to hold it forever. The chains break one by one. When the last falls, the world drowns again. But if we join, if we bind blood to blood, we can command it. Your throat is dry, your chest tight. Command Jörmungandr, he nods once, deliberate, certain, or be devoured by it. Arn grabs your shoulder, jerking you back into reality. Don't you dare listen to him, he roars. He's lying. He'll drag us all into hell's depths. But the raven woman's voice cuts sharper than his, low and trembling. He isn't lying, she says, pale eyes fixed on the widening rift. If Jörmungandr wakes, nothing survives, not man, not God, not stone. But she swallows hard, her voice dropping to a whisper. He speaks truth. The chains are failing. Einar looks between the three of you, blood running down his cheek. Then what in Odin's name do we do? Before you can answer, the rift explodes. A column of blinding crimson light erupts skyward, tearing through the mist, scorching the treetops. The shockwave throws warriors, Draugr and Eskay alike sprawling into the mud. The air is thick with heat, ash, and the choking stink of salt. From the depths, something vast moves. A single limb, thicker than any ship's mast, slick with seawater and barbs, lashes free from the fissure, smashing into the battlefield and scattering men like broken dolls. It slams into the forest floor, sinking deep, sending tremors through the ground. The impact hurls Arn to his knees and knocks the wind from your lungs. The whispers turn to a scream, shaking the marrow in your bones. Blod Knaus Blod. Haravalar roars your name, runes blazing across his ancient armor as he drives his spear deep into the soil. The Draugr surge forward again, throwing themselves against the monstrous limb in a tide of pale shields and spears. The raven woman grabs your hand, forcing the black ring against your palm until its runes burn white-hot. The oath will hold, she whispers fiercely, but only if you choose where it binds. Svither steps closer, his glowing eye flaring brighter. "Bind it to me," he says, his voice steady, commanding. "Together we hold the deep, or we die screaming beneath it." Arn yanks you away from him, voice breaking with fury. "Don't you dare. We kill him, destroy the ring, and bury this cursed shore forever." The earth shakes violently again, the monstrous limb wrenching free from the Draugr ranks, throwing corpses aside like broken twigs. Einar stares at you, desperation etched into his face. "Choose now," he rasps, "or the sea chooses for you." The rift pulses brighter, chains snapping like thunder beneath the soil. The roar of Jörmungandr fills your skull until you taste blood in your mouth. You stand between three paths. Bind Svither to the ring and share his power. Destroy the ring and the rift burns like a wound in the earth, bleeding crimson light into the choking mist. The air shakes with the roar of Jörmungandr, the drowned god beneath the world, its voice crawling through your bones like frost. Chains snap one by one beneath the soil, each breaking echo louder than thunder. You clutch the burning ring, its runes searing into your palm, the heat climbing into your veins until it feels like molten iron flooding your blood. Every heartbeat pounds like a war drum. You can't breathe, you can't think, only choose. Svither steps toward you, his blue glowing eye blazing brighter than the rift itself. "Bind me," he says, his voice steady, almost gentle. "Our blood is one. Together we command the deep. Without me you die. Without us the world drowns." Arn yanks you backward, planting himself between you and the reflection of your face, his axe trembling in his hands. "No," he snarls, voice raw. "He's poison. Whatever he is, kill him, break that cursed ring, and seal this shore forever." Einar presses against your side, panting, blood running down his cheek. "If we break the ring," he rasps, "the seal dies with it. That thing will crawl free, and nothing, not Harivalar, not your Draugr, not the gods themselves, will stop it." The Raven Woman stands closest to the rift, feathers fluttering violently in the heat and wind. Her obsidian blade hums faintly, runes glowing along its edge. Her pale eyes lock on yours, sharp and cold as a drawn seeks. "The oath listens," she says, her voice ringing clear above the chaos. "Bind Svither and his will becomes yours, but his hunger too. Break the ring and the deep walks free. Refuse both." She glances at the rift, her jaw tightening. "And the sea claims us now." The ground shakes violently again, hurling you to your knees. From the fissure, another monstrous limb tears free, slick, pale, barbed like a spear of bone. It slams into the battlefield, crushing Draugr and Skjolbryðr alike beneath its impossible weight. The impact shakes loose entire trees, sending them toppling into the mist. Harivalar roars, his voice splitting the din like a falling glacier. The Deathlord hurls himself at the limb, his spear glowing white-hot with runes, driving its barbed tip deep into the flesh of the god below. The Draugr surge with him, an unstoppable tide of pale shields and silent fury. But the limb doesn't retreat, it thrashes. Half your legion scatters under the force, corpses flying like ragged dolls. You stumble back as black ichor rains down, sizzling against the soil and burning holes into the earth wherever it lands. The whispers swell to a scream that tears at your mind. "Blod can ta can." The ring on your finger flares blinding white, and for a single instant you see visions again, not memories but possibilities. 1. You clasp Svither's hand, the ring burning as your blood fuses with his. The deep bows chained by your combined will, but your reflection smiles faintly, blue eye blazing, and you realize too late that you've given him half your soul. 2. You rip the ring from your finger and crush it beneath your heel. The crimson light explodes outward, the seal shattering. Jörmungandr rises fully, blotting out the sky with its impossible form. Cities drown, mountains sink. The world screams and goes silent. 3. You keep the ring. Refuse him. Stand alone. Command the Draugr with the oath-bound power you have. You and Harivalar lead the legion into the god's flesh, holding the seal by force until your blood boils and your body burns away. All three paths end in fire, but one of them might buy time. Svither sees your hesitation and steps closer, extending his hand toward you. I am not your enemy, he says softly, almost pleading now. I am you. Let us finish what they started. Arn roars, planting himself between you. Over my dead body. The Raven Woman shouts above the din, her voice breaking with urgency. Decide, Oath-bearer. The deep does not wait. The ground beneath your knee splits, hot wind blasting upward from the widening rift. Crimson light bathes your vision. The roar of Jörmungandr grows deafening now, shaking your ribs with each breath as if the god itself calls your name. Behind you, Haravalar staggers under a massive blow, his runes dimming. The Draugr ranks are breaking. If the limb breaches the tree line, Arvikar's strand will drown in minutes. 3 paths burn before you. Bind Svither. Destroy the ring. Stand alone and fight the god yourself. Your decision will choose the fate of the North. Your decision will choose the fate of the world. You grip the burning ring so tightly that its runes sear into your flesh, fusing metal with skin. The world narrows to fire, mist, and blood. All around you, chaos consumes Arvikar's strand. The clash of steel, the hiss of burning oil, the thunder of monstrous limbs tearing through earth and bone alike. But none of it matters. Only the choice matters. Svither stands before you, your reflection made flesh, scarred, older, his blue-glowing eye pulsing in rhythm with your own heartbeat. He extends his hand toward you, steady, calm, as though the battlefield itself bends around this single moment. Bind me, he says softly, his voice nearly lost beneath the roar of the drowned god. One oath, one blood, one will. Together we command the deep. Behind you, Arn roars, his voice ragged and broken from battle. Don't listen, don't you dare trust him. His axe drips with Sk Joldbrithyr blood, his chest heaving. He isn't you, he's a curse wearing your face. The Raven Woman steps closer, obsidian blade glimmering faintly with heat and runes. Her pale eyes lock onto yours, sharp and cold. Listen, Oath-bearer, she hisses. If you bind him, you'll share his strength, but also his hunger, his purpose. You won't be the same again. Einar grabs your arm, pulling you toward him, voice hoarse. We can hold the line, he shouts. Haravalar the Draugr, the seal, we can win this without him. Stand alone. Command the dead yourself. But beneath you, the rift convulses violently, spraying shards of stone into the mist. The monstrous limb of Jörmungandr crashes down again, flattening warriors and trees alike. Haravalar bellows in defiance, his spear glowing white-hot as he drives it deep into the god's flesh. The Draugr surge with him, pale and relentless, but their ranks are thinning, collapsing under the weight of something older than gods. The ring burns hotter still, its runes now blinding white. The whispers rise into a scream, drowning out everything else. Blod ta blod. Kan ta kan symbol 335, the choice tears at you. 3 paths, 3 fates. You stare into the glowing eye of your reflection, and for a heartbeat you see the visions clearly. The drowning of the world, the rising of the drowned god, and beyond it all, a door. A door you both hold the key to. Slowly, deliberately, you extend your bloodied hand. Svither grips it, his palm cold and rough, marked with scars like cracks in old ice. The ring flares blinding white as your blood mingles, threads of light crawling up your arms, winding through veins and bone alike. For a heartbeat there is no battlefield, no mist, no roaring deep, only darkness. You stand together beneath an endless black sea, chains stretching into infinity, their links thicker than mountains. And in the distance, something vast opens a single, lidless eye. Your reflection's voice echoes inside your skull. We are one. Power floods you, raw and crushing. The whispers stop instantly. The god beneath the world listens. When you open your eyes, the battlefield has changed. The Draugr stand taller, their shields locking as one, a perfect wall. Haravallar's runes blaze brighter, fueled by the oath now shared. Even the monstrous limb hesitates as if sensing its leash tightening, but Svither's smile is faint, unreadable. Now, he says softly, we hold the chains together. You tear the burning ring from your finger, ignoring the scream it rips from your flesh, and hurl it into the rift. For an instant, the world holds its breath. Then the earth splits open with a sound like the cracking of the sky itself. Crimson light floods upward, blinding, searing, endless. The chains below shatter, and Jörmungandr surges free with a roar so vast it drowns thought, shatters stone, and tears the air apart. The drowned god rises. Its shadow swallows Arvikar's strand, its tendrils blotting out the last scraps of gray light. The Draugr crumble into dust instantly, their oath severed, and even Haravallar staggers before collapsing into blackened fragments. Svither watches, his blue glowing eye burning brighter. You freed it, he whispers, and there's awe, almost joy in his voice. Now there's no going back. The sea begins to boil. You tighten your grip on the ring, refusing Svither's outstretched hand. I command the oath, you snarl, voice shaking with fury, and no one else. You raise your hand high, the ring blazing, and pour everything, your blood, your will, your breath into the seal. The Draugr respond instantly, their pale eyes blazing white, shields locking so tightly they form a wall of bone. Haravallar roars your name, his spear alight with runes, and together you drive the legion forward. The battlefield becomes a tide of silent corpses crashing against the living mercenaries, forcing them back step by step. But the strain tears through you like fire. Your blood feels molten. Your bones creak beneath the weight of power not meant for mortal flesh. Every heartbeat burns. You hear your ribs crack, and still you hold the chains. Svither watches you, his faint smile fading into something unreadable. So be it, he whispers. But remember this, you cannot hold forever. The battlefield roars around you. Screams, drums, steel. The hiss of the deep's tendrils ripping through earth. Your choice will decide whether the north stands or sinks beneath the waves forever. The rift screams. Crimson light bleeds through the mist, burning the shadows into shapes that dance and twist like drowning figures beneath the sea. The air is thick with salt and blood, heavy with the weight of something ancient pulling against the chains of the earth. And you choose. The moment your blood fuses with his, the world shatters into silence. The screams, the drums, the roar of the drowned god, gone. You stand somewhere else entirely. Beneath you stretches an endless black ocean, its surface perfectly still, reflecting nothing. Chains as thick as mountains descend into the depths, vanishing into darkness so complete it devours thought. Beside you stands Svither, your reflection, your shadow, your other half, his blue eye burning like a distant star. We are the chain now, he says softly, two halves of the same will. Beneath the surface, something vast stirs. You feel its gaze, not with eyes, but with weight, pressure, hunger. And when it sees you, the pressure stops. It listens. You return to Arvikar's strand in a breath, power surging through your veins like molten steel. Haravallar kneels, his runes blazing so bright they carve shadows into the mist. The Draugr form into perfect ranks, their shields locking tighter than stone. The monstrous limbs of Jörmungandr hesitate, sensing new masters. Push it back, you whisper, Haravalar roars and the legion obeys. Spears pierce the tendrils, shields drive them into the earth. The ground itself shakes as the drowned god retreats inch by inch, dragged screaming back beneath the chains you now hold. The Raven Woman stares at you, her pale eyes wide, voice trembling. You've done it. Gods forgive us. You've become the seal. But as Svither leans close, his voice a whisper meant for you alone. This is only the first drowning, he murmurs. When the last chain breaks, brother, we decide who sinks and who survives. The black iron shatters between your fingers. For a heartbeat, the rift goes silent. Then the world screams. The chains below snap one by one in rapid succession. A sound so deep it claws inside your skull and drags your breath from your chest. The fissure erupts in a column of crimson fire, splitting the forest apart, throwing warriors and Draugr alike into the mud. Jörmungandr rises. The ground quakes under its emergence. Pale, barbed limbs explode upward, smashing trees, tearing apart the land, wrapping around anything that moves. Sk Jolbrother, Draugr, even stone and steel. Its vast, eyeless head breaks the surface, slick with salt and shadow, and the roar it unleashes drowns the battlefield in sound and madness. Haravalar collapses instantly, his runes guttering out like dying embers. The Draugr fall where they stand, their oaths severed, their bodies crumbling into pale dust. The Raven Woman screams something you cannot hear, her feathers ripped from her cloak as she's flung into the trees. Arn drags you to your feet, shouting your name, his voice raw, but you can't focus. The deep has risen, and there is no sealing it again. Svither smiles faintly, stepping toward the god, arms spread wide. You freed it, he whispers, almost reverent. Now, watch what becomes of those who think they can cage the sea. Behind you, the tide begins to rise. You grip the ring tighter and pour everything into the oath, your blood, your breath, your soul. The runes burn white-hot, searing into your flesh until you feel bone cracking beneath the strain. Haravalar answers instantly. His spear blazes like a star falling to earth, the Draugr moving in a single perfect rhythm, their shields slamming into one another with thunderous force. Together you drive them forward, not as men, not as corpses, but as one will, one defiance against the hunger below. Hold, you scream, though your throat tears with the effort. Hold, the monstrous limb crashes down again, flattening 3 ranks of Draugr, but you force more power into the command. Their broken bodies rise anyway, shields locking, spears thrusting, a tide of pale warriors pushing the god back step by step. The pain is unbearable. Your vision fractures, your heartbeat falters, your lungs feel full of burning seawater. But still you stand. Svither watches you in silence, his faint smile gone, his glowing eye dim. You can't hold forever, he murmurs, almost mournful. Then I'll hold long enough, you rasp, and pour the last of your strength into the seal. The earth cracks once more, the rift shuddering violently, then the roar fades. The limbs retreat. Jörmungandr sinks screaming back into the abyss. The mist clears slowly. The battlefield is silent save for the hiss of burning oil and the ragged breath of the living. Haravalar kneels before you, his massive form scarred, runes dim but unbroken. The Raven Woman lowers her blade, pale gaze fixed on you as though seeing something new. You are the chain now, she whispers, and when the god stirs again, you will break before it does. The wind rises, cold and sharp, carrying the stench of salt and smoke. The ravens return to their perches. The drums have stopped. But far beneath Arvikar's strand, you feel it still, the slow, patient pulse of the drowned god. The war is not over. The chains will not hold forever. And the next time Jörmungandr wakes, it will not sleep again.